Welcome to another episode of Learning and Development, Preparing Enterprises for Tomorrow. I'm glad to have with me Mr. Udit Bhatia, Director, India Learning Leader, Ernst Young. Thank you, Udit, for making out time and joining us for this session today. We also have with us Mr. Dhawal Sharma, Head Solution Consulting, APAC, Coursera. Thank you, Dhawal, for joining us today on this event. Right? Udit, I come to you. You are at the helm of an organization that is known worldwide, right? It's one of the most aspirational organization that one wants to be associated with, right? And you are heading the learning piece, right? So I'm very, very intrigued at a very, very personal level that, driving learning for such a prestigious organization, right, is a different ballgame altogether, right? What are your thoughts about it? How do you go about, just an opening conversation? Over to you, Udit.
So one, I must say, first of all, thank you so much for having me here today. And great meeting my old pal as well. It started in 2008. And
Okay.
It has not happened in a day. It's been 15 years I've been there with EY now. It's a great organization. Long back when I started, the organization was very small. It was just 2,800 odd people. And this I'm talking about 2008. We've come a long way, and I'm sure a lot of organizations similar to UI, they have come a long way, because we are today around 45,000 odd people in India practice. And
Wow.
At this point in time I can say is to have those 3 million plus hours of learning in a year. This has been a journey. And it has been a consistent journey over a period of 15 years, looking at the future, what future entails. If I have to just give you a conversation starter, as a learning head, the thing which keeps me up at night and going in the firm is, while the team is working on today, what do I need to do to ensure that the future is safe? So we always look into the future. That's how we manage the firm.
And I guess, most of the whole world is looking at you for consultation as to guiding them as to how is their future going to shape up, right? So it makes it even more trickier for you, right?
Yes, because we don't have products. We don't sell products. We sell skills.
Correct.
So 40,000 people across maybe 1,000 plus odd solutions, various levels. What keeps us going is our knowledge, experience, and constant upskilling. So learning, as long as I remember in all the reviews which I've seen in the leadership team, learning has always been one of the pillars. And that is why it keeps me and my entire team, as well as the firm, at the helm of learning.
Absolutely. So, Udit, just digging a little deeper into this, technology also plays a great role in today's world, right? And for the people you are advising and in your own organization, and technology is known to be changing at the most rapid pace. That's the only thing which is not constant, right? How has that impacted your approach to learning in your organization, given that you're already at such a big scale? Right?
2015 is when I started looking at some of the numbers which we were doing. And what was surprising or maybe shocking at the same time was that for a large organization like EY, the amount of virtual influx or maybe technology infusion in learning was as low as 8%.
Okay.
Right, of the total learning. And that is when we started realizing that if we have to ensure that we reach the last person in the food chain, we ensure that there is a constant mix of learning happening or constant learning happening for everybody in the firm. Technology will have to be infused. So from 8%, obviously, to 2020 when COVID did strike everybody and it forced many organizations. But before that, at least I'm happy to say that before COVID did hit us, we were already sitting at somewhere around 42%. Of technical or self-paced learning. And I'm still talking only about self-paced learning, and as we move forward, I'm going to talk about more stuff. But COVID at least taught us that technology is going to really impact the way the learning is going to be deployed or delivered, or the way we are going to actually reach out to our learners. And from that time onwards, technology has played an integral part of it. So if pre-COVID, there were only 3 modes of training where you would talk about instructor-led, self-paced learning and maybe external courses. Today, 2023 and going forward, there are new modes of learning which are coming. There are new modes or new ways of connecting with the learner. And I'm sure as we progress, we are also going to talk a little bit about AI, but technology is constantly impacting the way we are going to reach out to our learners. And it has shaped the way we actually do our business today. So while we are consulting people outside, we are actually ensuring that we are maintaining the pace. And the way we are in a position to share a lot of best practices with our customers as well, our clients as well. Because the number one question which a client is asking us today is, how are you keeping your people updated?
Correct.
How are you ensuring that they are in the best state of mind to advise us?
Why should they come to you?
Why should they come to us? How are you ensuring that an audit professional who is doing an audit engagement is following all the protocols because you're so big?
Right.
So the clients are asking the right questions. Technology helps us to ensure that the questions which they're asking and the answers we are giving, there's a bridge in between.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for that piece. Dhawal, I come to you at this juncture, right? How do you see from a platformization standpoint, right? A learning partner such as Coursera, helping a challenging situation as posed by Udit here, right? That they're so big, they're all over the world. They have 1,000 different functions and services that they deploy. What is it that you're offering to kind of help them in their journey of learning?
Right. I think it's a great question, and frankly, when it comes to the kinds of customers we work with, partners we work with, I think professional services and consulting is one of the most challenging sectors for us because, like you said, firms such as EY have to be ahead of the curve, right? Because a lot of multi-billion-dollar businesses are depending on them to show them the way forward to grow more and so on. So for us, when it comes to working with organizations such as EY and largely in the professional services space, first is how can we first of all come at the same plane as them, at the scale and the level of challenge that they're talking about. By that, what we mean is that how do we see ourselves not just as content providers but as strategic partners, right? And just to give you an example, we are one of the largest online learning providers in the world. We've been in this space for close to more than a decade now. Can we first of all help partners such as EY also figure out, okay, what is happening in the world, first of all, right?
So you're flipping roles, if I may say so?
Sorry, yeah, in a way, yes, right? So where is the world going? What are businesses focusing on, right? So EY would obviously, has clients across industries, manufacturing, tech, financial services. So the first, thing for us is, okay, what are we seeing across industries, right? What are what is manufacturing focusing on? What is financial services focusing on? Can we bring in some guidance from a point of view of learning, right? Of course, EY and other consulting professional services firms, you really work deeply with these clients. You don't need us to exactly hold your hand. But we do bring in a perspective from the learning point of view, right? And what organizations are learning today gives you a hint of where they want to go to, what opportunities they are seeking. So that's one. The other is, again, if I might, let's say, Udit's hat for a second, is to bring in a consultative approach, right? Because for an organization of such scale and complexity, yes. Domains crisscrossing with technologies, platforms, standards, how do we build a learning program for a setup like that, right? So there you can't operate on a content provider model. You can't be like and not to knock on Netflix, but you can't be a Netflix that here's a license, watch as much as you can, because learning is not like that. Learning is not consuming content. So theirs is where we bring in a more consultative approach, a more services sort of approach, where we try to figure out, okay, what is it you're trying to achieve from a business point of view? Are you targeting larger share in a particular domain? Do you want to target a new industry? Do you want to grow profitability? Do you want to grow efficiency? And that's where the conversation starts. And then finally it comes down to, so content is the last piece. It's not the first piece, right? So we try to figure out, okay, because, the thing with learning is, and even, especially now, you've got to keep the end objective in mind. You've got to keep the ROI in mind. And for a learning provider like us, if we don't know what the end objective is, we are not going to succeed in, in our objective, right? Which is basically upskill people, change on-the-job behavior. So for us, it's like trying to understand what is the larger goal. Because sometimes, people do ask, why are you asking what is your, what our strategy is? Why does it matter to you? It does matter because, a year from now, 2 years from now, how are you going to judge whether we succeeded or not? So, two things, right? Firstly, bringing in a perspective from a learning point of view, what are we seeing? And secondly, bringing a services/consultative approach where we can understand your larger goals, and then finally work back towards what an employee is actually going to learn, right? So, flipping the traditional model. So that, we are able to keep the North Star, which is the ROI, which is the end objective, always in focus.
Absolutely. And Dhawal, if I may articulate it in a different manner, is that one you are saying is the content is a given. It's not just the last page, it's a given. It has to be there. And if I kind of, see it from Udit's perspective, because E&Y is so big and so prestigious, the benchmarks are very high. So for them to continue to be relevant and important, they are looking at a different North Star, if I may say. It's not just the North Star, it's a different North Star altogether. It is not unmatched by any other company within the professional services domain as well, if I may say so. Right? Udit, at this juncture, I come to you, and what I want to check with you is that you already hinted upon how technology you have used and you have pivoted from an 8% to a 45%, right? But the talk of the town today is generative AI, right? Have you kind of applied that lens in your learning architecture anytime, or planning to, or do you see its role in how you're going to take it forward?
I think that's a good question. Even if I say I don't plan to, it will force me to look into it, which means that we've already looked into it. When I said 45%, the world was very different, and I have to probably I need to mention it here. The world was very different pre-COVID. Firms were able to manage learning. Very old conventional methods of learning, you're dependent on trainers. You will probably, by the way, the good part is the likes of Coursera, Udemy for business, all these platforms were there to help. But the acceptance and adaptation, if correct me if I'm wrong, the adaptation or adoption of these models were not there. It was there, but it was not the primary focus area for the firms. But post-COVID, I think if I talk about 2021 or last 2 years, the world has changed in the learning space. And I'll probably, if you're okay, I'll probably take a couple of minutes to just emphasize why
Absolutely.
AI is going to play an important role for us. Post-COVID, every firm saw a 80% dip in their learning budgets.
Okay.
Right? Because we were not into a physical classroom anymore. There was no ecosystem being used. So I can safely say that most of the matured organizations saw a dip in their learning investments in people, which means high dependency was on virtual platforms.
Mm-hmm.
Whether we talk about self-paced platforms or we talk about the virtual platforms which enable to run a classroom.
Correct.
In just 1 year time, I think the adoption of virtual platforms just probably, I think it became threefold, fourfold in that just 1 year. As we came out of COVID, there's a new problem we are dealing with now. The new problem we are dealing with is, one is growth. So the firms didn't stop growing in India. And I'm only talking about India at this point of time. The firms were growing. Investments were coming in. Hiring was at all-time high till last year. Attrition was at all-time high. So the problems for a learning leader like me was not just to create a bouquet of programs and take it to people and say, hey, we will probably have around 1,000 odd programs for you in a year. Here is what you can do. Which means the need to understand the business, the changing ecosystem of their environment, the kind of resources who were coming into the firm, the kind of upskilling which was required. And upskilling totally shifted from just softer leadership, mindset, culture to big time in digital analytics, cyber technology because of COVID. Big time focus. So the challenges and the key focus areas for every learning leader changed. 2023, some relaxation happened in budgets.
Okay.
But by now, 2022, 23, learning leaders got used to, or business, I'll not say learning leaders, I'll say business. Business got used to big numbers and this new ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
So today the business, when they are talking to me about learning, is not. We no more exchange conversations around what are we going to do for each other. It's very simple. We're going to double our growth in the next 1 year. How are you going to enable that? It's very simple. They will say, you know what, you need to understand our technology business focus area. Out of the 40,000 people, by the way, there are 15,000 people work in the technology space. So the question today is not about just skilling. The question today about is, okay, fine, a comprehensive learning ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
It starts from an analyst and goes up till a partner. There are close to 18 levels in between. Analyst spends 2 years, consultant spends 3 years, senior con spends another 3 years. So if you count the number of years, by the time you reach a partner, it's around 17 to 18 years. And they need learning ecosystem for every year as a progression. And that is where we have now started looking at not just content. I think one thing which I'm borrowing from what you just mentioned is, and you also mentioned, is content is not a problem today. There is a lot of content. Content to be given at the right time to the right person is becoming a problem because there's so much of content available. That is where AI comes in. I'll say we are still in a nascent stage in the learning ecosystems across the world because we are still looking at AI as an enablement for learning, whereas I feel AI needs to be a firm's culture. Right? It needs to be embedded in the firm. The moment I'm looking at a talent in the industry, the moment I'm hiring somebody, that intent, the AI can start from there. The moment a person is being given an offer, AI has started because obviously the person can find more personas, more people like that. You can actually prepare a person before a person joins. You don't need to wait for a person to come on board.
Correct.
You can reduce the lead cycle by, say, 50%. Normally, it takes 6 months for a person to actually settle down in a consulting firm and start producing. You can cut it down by 3 months. If a person knows, hey, you know what, in the last 5 years, people like me at my level in this particular solution, say in SAP or Oracle or Analytics or, say, tech transformation, they went through this cycle in the first year. These are the kind of skill sets. These are the kind of solutions. These are the kind of behaviors. And if I can start investing in my skilling now, by the time I join, I can be a more productive person in 3 months' time. Now, what does it do at a large scale level is when you're dealing with 45,000 people, it has a growth impact of lead time of 3 months. So if you're bringing the skills forward, you're bringing the impact forward.
Right.
If you're bringing the impact forward, your utilization of a person is going up by 3 months. If the utilization of a person is going up by 3 months, your revenues and your bottom line or margins will go up. So AI, I don't think we need to look at AI just as enablement for content. AI need to be embedded into the entire culture of the firm, and now it needs to be individual focus. I will not say we have done a lot, but I think we are on the right track with the clients. How many certified professionals were you taking there? what is the size of the engagement, whether you get 3 crore or 5 crore or 6 crore. Hence, it's good to invest 40 lakhs or 50 lakhs in these certifications. You just need to know where to apply it. We do 6,000 courses in EY. You cannot apply ROI to all of them.
Got that.
But you need to identify if we want to calculate ROI, either it needs to have an impact in terms of operating cost, which is volumes, or it needs to have a ROI in the impact we create in the market. So that is what we are able to do today.
Thank you for answering that question in so much detail, Udit. And why I say that, I'll take a minute more. I risk asking this question to each of my panelists every time, and I have been answered starting from who asks ROI questions to what you told me today, and you have broken it up and you put it on the correct perspective that it's not a question that is a yes or a no. Not everything can be measured. However, things that need to be measured have to be, and you cannot shun away, right? You cannot get away saying that no, it's a culture and, we really don't measure ROI, So I have had those answers also in the past, but thank you so much. I think we're running out of time, and Dhawal, I'll quickly come to you. Any successful case study you wish to share? Because Coursera is also global, right? You must have heard similar use cases presented to you. Anything that you can share with us?
I'll focus my some of the examples that I take to India, because obviously India is our fastest growing market, and we have seen some great outcomes here. It's a very interesting engagement in the sense that obviously for an organization of a scale which is comparable to that of EY, what they're trying to do is basically quite revolutionary. They're saying that if we want to be a digital first organization, and they believe they have no choice but to be a digitally enabled choice, even if they're talking about people who are not exactly working in the tech function or the data function. So their aim is that if we want to capture a large chunk of the market out there, we will have to be digitally enabled, and not just people who are working in the digital functions, who are not just working in the tech function, not just leaders, but everybody down to the bottom. And I think that's similar to what you also articulated. But the approach that they're taking is, and again, I think that's the right approach, where they said it has to start from the leaders, right? We can't tell our employees who are partner level and below that, hey, you need to be digitally enabled, while we are comfortable in where we are, because we can tell you what to do. So and given the scale of the organization, obviously the senior cadre is also huge, right? Everybody comes with their own experience. Everybody comes with varying levels of existing understanding about tools and digital ecosystems, etc. So when we started working with them, they were like, this is what our aim is. They were very clear on where they want to reach. And they, in fact, pushed us to give them something which did not really exist before we started working with them, right? So they pushed us to go back to the drawing board and think, okay, how do we meet the need, this very unique need, where you have to, cater to these thousands of VP level and above people. The content has to be, firstly, very relevant. It has to be short, because obviously a VP or a partner is not going to spend months learning something. It has to be relevant, it has to be fresh, and it has to be delivered in a way which is engaging, right? They have to feel that they're not just consuming information. So it actually, in that case, we had to figure out, go back to even our engineering, okay, how do we, we are trying to build this, how do we do it? So, and they, in fact, forced us to become better. And we delivered something which was very unique for them, and it ended up we ended up seeing a lot of impact in terms of, obviously it's still early days, but we saw a lot of enthusiasm in the learners because they had not encountered something like that earlier. We saw in terms of the engagement with the material, completion rates, learning hours, which is typically not a very exciting metric. All of that was through the roof because we were catering to a very senior audience, right? The fact that they were engaging with it and the fact that we built something new for them was quite exciting. And obviously, on the back of that, the successes we have seen with that, they are now thinking, okay, how do we roll it out to the rest of the organization? Because the leadership has seen potential. And similarly, in another case, we worked with a very well-known financial services firm. And like most financial services firms, they have a large sales force, right? People who are either on the ground or calling. How do you give such people a growth path, right? Not everybody can become a sales manager. Not everybody can become a regional sales head or something, right? And given they are a financial services firm, data and tech is a huge part of their business. In fact, they're investing a lot. So they said we need people in those areas, in those job roles. And hiring from outside is always more difficult, more expensive. How do we enable people inside the organization to move into those roles? So we've actually seen live use cases where people from sales have managed to move into entry-level data and tech roles, which is exactly the kind of use case which we see people articulating that we want to be able to do this, but we managed to do this, with this financial services firm. Again, early days, but we hope to scale this with them because we're talking huge lakhs and lakhs of people who are in those sales roles who have an aspiration to move into something better. So just two extremes from very senior, very strategic, decades of experience kind of people to folks who've been in sales for a few years, have an aspiration to grow. So we are seeing everything in between, right? So and that's ultimately we have realized that unless we are able to provide that ROI, which is or outcomes, we are not going to succeed, right? So yeah, I hope that those examples were pertinent to the question.
No, absolutely, and thank you so much for sharing. And it's great to hear that people only have spoken about this. At times, it also sounded like wishful thinking that, do you want to put a sales guy onto a data entry? But you have helped people transcend that, line and crossover, right? Which people can only dream of. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Dhawal. Thank you, Udit, for sharing and, helping us take a sneak peek as to what happens into a big organization such as EY and how you make it run like a well-oiled machinery. I think thanks to the vision that you carry, it's not every day that, we meet people such as you who are enabling such large organizations. Thank you for being candid and putting it out right there for our audience to take their learnings and, implement in their respective fields. As always, Dhawal, thanks to you for putting out, the wonderful case studies that Coursera has enabled and, how pivotal learning is and how you are enabling it for enterprises at scale, because I think there, it becomes more complex, like you put it in the very beginning, that, achieving it at scale is different. It's a different ballgame. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time, and thank you, audience, for being here. Thank you.
Thank you so much.